três.
Um, dois, três.
Três. E começa.
Recording in English.
Recording. In English.
With the mic.
Here we go.
We will call him Mike.
Mike.
Mike the mic.
Mike the mic. So let's go.
All right.
1, 2, 3.
It's recording.
Welcome, guys. My name is Nelson.
And my name is Bruno Mello.
And today, as you could see, we have a different background. With Bruno made it, which is great. That one become because of some feedbacks we received
Yes,
to make
exactly.
this one a little bit more interactive.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, man.
No, of
Awesome
course, my
job.
pleasure.
Awesome job. So what are our topic today?
Yeah, as you can see, our topic is social contract.
Social
Right,
contract.
so we're going to follow the logical sequence of events, of ceremonies, based on a Scrum and an iteration logic that we talked before.
Mhm.
This is the first one, the most important one in terms of team momentum, if you will, right?
Yeah, I would say that social contract to me, personal feelings, it is the most crucial artifact or activity that a team needs to have, where it will be the first moment that they will, if you will, let's say, they will leave the values, right? They will put in practice some of the values,
Right.
which they will get openness to prove what they feel like,
Right.
what they expect from each other.
Right. So it's important for us to make a parallel when you say values and agile values,
True.
coming from the manifesto, the Agile manifesto. There are 12 principles and 4 pillars. Out of those, a concept, IBM and developed 5 values, right? Which are courage, respect,
Empathy.
trust, and openness.
Mm.
And so that's pretty interesting, and those values are the values that we're supposed to live by. And that's what he's talking about. So it's very cool. It's no secret.
No, but it's hard, and we
really
got a
hard.
lot of people, even working in so many iterations. I do see a lot of teams complaining about behalves and behaviors about leaving the social contract.
Right.
And I do see that a lot of other teams also doesn't know when to revisit the social contract.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that's
What happened? It's just like a pop-up. No worries. He will come back. We will leave as the way it is.
yeah,
It's part
cool.
of.
It's all right.
So
Just a calendar pop up.
to
We
remember,
apologize.
he needs to remember what to do on Monday.
Actually, it's actually interesting. That pop up is a reminder for the mood marbles, which we'll talk about it later.
Cool.
Stay
man.
tuned.
So as I was saying, I do see that a lot of teams get concerns on, and I also understood recently that people is still having issues how to build up.
Yeah, it's true. And when you said about revisiting the social contract, that's something that right now I personally have to do with my squad, and our squad is preparing to do the 3rd iteration of the social contract. So to kick off things, I think we should kind of dive in on how we are practicing social contracts right now, and some of the stories, some of the lessons learned, and pitfalls, something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, to me, it's awesome.
You want to start?
No, you can.
All right. So I learned how to do a social contract in a silent manner, and it's really interesting when you have a new squad, when you have like a new development team created with the purpose of developing a new software or a new application, or even a new squad for operations.
Mhm.
You have to start. It's recommended that you start with in your horizon, like in your perspective, that these values, and specifically trust and respect, these things are not yet built up. Like we always used to say when we're talking to people about Agile and values, we say it's impossible for me to just come here and say, hey, trust me, I'm not gonna let you down. It's not how it works. It takes a long
It's not
time,
that easy.
right? So because of this, because of the fact that building up these values and these relationship things, because they take longer time, it's recommended that you do certain practices in a silent manner. So specifically for social contract, we're supposed to share things that are important to us individually, things that we don't like. So for example, I don't like curse words, or I appreciate when people say good morning to me, or things like that. I don't like when people do conference calls with the speaker with the speaker um, on and not
Hmm.
the headset, which messes with my focus. All these things are valid to go in a social contract, but I don't feel comfortable enough to just say that out loud. And that's because there's a new squad, or I don't feel that we have yet trust and respect enough to just say that out loud. So I feel like I can be misinterpreted or misunderstood and something like that. So that's why we recommend what I recommend, and I learned this way uh, because it's healthy for the team on a longer perspective. So the idea is that everyone gets a post-it and you get a pen and you just write down all the things that you feel like could go in that social contract. They are valuable to you, and you
Cool.
put that down and you put that on the wall. When you're done, you put everything on the wall, and then the next step after everyone has done this silent brainstorming. So that's also something that I share with people. We call this silent brainstorming, right? So that everyone feel they can be heard and yet not questioned or judged. So they're sharing things that are important to them, and in a way that no one will judge them or call them out. So that's the step one. Step two is when the
I
scrum
was,
master.
I would just, just before you move
uh
on, I'm sorry.
it's fine.
I think that, as Bruno said correctly, the silent thing, we call this one as, a diverge, where you would just put your ideas, behaviors you live by, the behaviors you don't want to live by, what are the things that, you don't like to live with. So it is a moment that, you're gonna just diverge ideas. It will be
Right.
just, ideas with no connections, that will be the first moment, as I just love, because it's silence. People would just go into their sticky note and put into the paper and then put into the wall. So
Right.
afterwards, as he will say, is part of the iteration manager, will just go with the team and try to read each one of the cards and try to get similarities about what are the cards and the things that are similar in terms of the converge, where they will connect similarities with the cards. Maybe people
Right.
will put
Right.
the same ideas in different words, right? So it would be a moment to revisit, to see, and clustering in similarities. And
Perfect.
then maybe you were about to say the third part, that will be make remixed, where that will we call put into a statement, right? So when we say get punctual, I'm not sure if is that the right word in English, but getting in time on meetings or just getting time maybe have different
Yes.
point of views.
Yes.
Be on time on what, when, how, right? So
Yes.
that's why the statement is pretty important, that people will understand and have clarity what the point of view means, right? When you say
That's cool.
getting punctual or respectful teamwork, when you expect teamwork, because if you are working on teams that do development, he might need sometimes to get concentrate, and you won't expect teamwork at that time. So it's pretty much to understand the meaning of each one of the statements. So it's pretty clear to everybody when you say, teamwork, when you expect teamwork, and not expecting teamwork every time,
Right.
every moment, or
When they
on a
apply.
stand up. You
Right.
won't expect teamwork on the stand up because it's like single people talking about their activities.
Yeah.
So it's no teamwork.
But you do expect respect, and you do expect listening
Mm-hmm.
and attention, and not doing multitasking. So, to what you said, reminded me of something very, very important. And as you guys saw, we have our Agile talk show,
Cards.
hosts kind of
Sure.
thing. It's because we want to make sure that we remember the cool stuff. So this is cool to me. Is where when you guys go back to take back to the first season when we talked a lot about uh, our our take on building up an agile culture from removing bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
The social contract's a very interesting place for you to get your squad to discuss these things, these bad habits, and actually try to use the social contract as a guide to try to remove them. So, for example, cell phones in any team interaction, remove the cell phones from the equation, and the ThinkPad as well, like the laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Put that in your social contract. That's something that in brainstormings and sessions with the guys, with our peers and our partners. The, this is a solution. This is like a very interesting solution, an agile solution to avoid these things and to try to remove them from the equation. So removing the bad habits. So social contract is a very powerful tool, very easy to use, and
But it's hard to leave.
it's hard to live and hard to track. So for you Scrum Masters and IAMs, iteration managers out there, you have to try to find ways to make sure that those things are on your mind and on your day-to-day behavior, so you remember to live those expectations, so that the team will look up to you as an example.
Yeah. We could spend a lot of time
Yeah.
talking about behaviors and situations, which but I think that one of the key things about social contract that people need to remember, that they need to revisit anytime a new member comes in or goes out, right? Because maybe some particularities over the social contract were to attend one single person and that person just left. Maybe it will be a good time to revisit the social
That's
contract
true.
to see if there is something that we need to change based on
Remove
that
or
person,
add. Yeah.
or maybe something, or a new hire just getting to the squad, which we will see people moving around the squads. Maybe some particularities will need to be revisit. And the second moment that I think that is pretty important, on social contract, it will be after the retrospective. Because maybe you will point out some behaviors that someone will just pop up, and you will go and back and look at the social contract and see if that behavior it will affecting somehow the mode of the team. So that's why
Totally.
mood marbles is pretty important. That it will be also a temperature to understand all the things that happen into a sprint related to social contract, deliverables, retrospective, and blah blah blah.
The third part, or the third step that I learned, is the voting session. So because the social contract is
Voting.
very sensitive, the voting here it should be done openly. So the way we learn to do the voting openly is by using one, if you agree with that particular sticky, which is basically particular item to go into the social contract. Uh, Two is that you don't necessarily agree, but you were okay with it. You can live with that particular thing. And the three is for I don't agree and I cannot live with that.
Yeah.
If in any situation someone comes with voting with the three, then the team stops to discuss why that's the three for that person. And that's when we start to practice openness and courage. And of course, not everything can be done silently. This has to become a discussion, right? Because the idea is that if something is really uncomfortable to someone in the team, it shouldn't go in the social contract, but that person has to say why. If you're not ready to explain why, then that it's not necessarily that important to you, and so that you have to be very attentive to when you're voting three. It has to be something very, very sensitive, and you have to explain why, so that people can empathize with you.
Yeah, I think that the good thing he said, about living if he will be able to live with. Is give it like 2, 3, 4 iterations to leave that social contract to see if any concern comes up,
Yeah.
and then you can revisit.
That's
So
true.
so let's try to summarize everything we said.
Good
So
point.
we got the step number one will be diverge. People will put sticky notes on the wall.
Yep. Silent brainstorming.
Silent brainstorm. Second moment, it will be clustering.
Yep.
Reading and trying to make connections. Then you would maybe voting will come over. To vote
Third
the
part.
ones as a third part. And then the fourth, it will be put into a statement where it will represent the cards that it will mention some words as ownership. For an example, we mentioned about be get punctual, but ownership. What would expect when ownership will have teamwork?
That's a good point.
So people can understand in what moment it is expected to have such behavior.
That's awesome. Those are the steps that we learned and that we practice right now. So we invite you all to share with us your experiences with social contract.
Pain
That's it,
points,
guys.
happiness.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's very, very important.
Hope you guys have liked it. This is our season number 2. We are changing
Yes.
every time, so thank you everybody for the support, and
Yes.
stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you for your visit.
Later, guys.
Show.